Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I think we are live. At least I hope we're live. We're going to find out in a second. I'm trying something out a little bit new today so that I can show you the worksheet and the periodic table while we work. And that's the reason I wanted to do this instead of Zoom. And also, I don't know, honestly, I wanted to do this instead because it's a lot easier to host for anybody who couldn't tune in right on time because just the Zoom meetings that we've had haven't had a whole lot of people show up to them live. When I do it through YouTube like this, it's much easier for me to put that link online afterwards when it's done, so anybody who missed it can be able to tune in. But thank you to everyone who's here. Say hi if you're here for me, and let me know that you're here in the chat, and we will get started in going over the quiz that I put on Google Classroom. I've got that pulled up, so you should be able to see that if you are watching. So we'll go over the quiz and kind of talk about what I was looking for on that. And I also want everybody to know that there is no problem if you had problems filling this out. I had set it programmed basically so that it would only accept the right answer and nothing else. And I know that's kind of harsh. I didn't, if you emailed me and said, this isn't working, I need help, or something like that, and you wanted to share a picture of your quiz with me, that's perfectly acceptable. And most of you guys were on the right track. It seems like number 3 was really the hard question. So, Luis Celli and Coach Lynch, hello, guys. Thank you guys for being here. Let's talk about this and get through it. And then we will say adieu for spring break. And I have a couple thoughts on that for when we come back. So let's start with this and finish that first, and then we'll go from there. Hey, Caitlin, glad you guys are here. So I'm going to skip through pretty fast the first couple of questions because I know that that didn't go so terribly for everybody. Like the first 2 questions went, all things considered, pretty darn well. So the first thing we're trying to figure out is what is the molecular weight of sulfur hexafluoride, SF6. So most people did that extremely well. We're going to take our 1 sulfur plus our 6 fluorines, and we're going to figure out their weights and add those together. So I know I've got to kind of turn the camera here so that you guys can see it. So let's see if that looks a little better. And I know it's a little bit small in the corner too. I will enlarge it and make it bigger in a second. I also want to show you the periodic table where we're going to get these weights from. So sulfur, if we round everything to 1 decimal place, and I think a lot of the difficulty you guys were having was just with the rounding, right? Um, but sulfur, if we round to 1 decimal place, that's going to be 32.1. And then fluorine, if we round to 1 decimal place, is actually 19.0. So we'll do the math on that and add those together right quick. And 32.1. And we get 146.1, and that is rounded to 1 decimal place. So sulfur hexafluoride is 146.1 grams per mole. We would say that there are 146.1 grams of it for every 1 mole of material. And then the question was asking us, if we go back to the quiz and look at that, the question was asking us if we have 225 grams of it, how many moles is that? So if we have 225 grams, how many moles is that? And we're going to put an X in because the how many, well, actually, yeah, I worded it that way. I said how many moles. So how many moles of sulfur hexafluoride do we have? We're going to put in an X, and we've got our proportion. So you've got your 2 fractions. All that's left to do is go in and cross multiply and solve those. So we're going to cross multiply I'm going to go down and across this time because I feel like it. Really doesn't matter, right? We'll simplify. 225 equals 146.1x, and divide both sides by 146.1. So we get an answer for x. I'm a little out of space here. We get an answer for x from our calculator of 1.54. But I did say round it to 1 decimal place. And so if you round that to 1 decimal place, that should just turn into 1.5. So those are our first two answers for the quiz, which most everybody who emailed me and asked questions and was like, hey, what's going on with that? Chelly, you know what, man? You do not have to. You can do whatever you need to do in your life. I think probably most of you guys tuning in right now probably don't need help with this because you have been tuning in and watching. So that's, credit to you guys for doing that and being here. So no, I mean, if you don't need help with this, if you got everything on the quiz correct, then you're good to go. It's question 3 that a lot of people got wrong. So before you leave, was your answer to number 3 9.0? If it wasn't, maybe you should stick around. But if your answer was 9.0, then 9.0 times 10 to the 23rd, I think, then you got it and you're good. And yeah, you don't need to worry about it. Have a great spring break. But then have a great spring break. You are set. You've accomplished the material. And I feel like I said, a lot of people probably are in those same shoes, but I wanted to do this one last time before we left. So take care of yourself, Chelly. Have a really good break. And we're not coming back to school in a week, but we'll still keep doing Zoom conferences and YouTube lives and all sorts of different things to keep us busy. So anyway, thank you. Let's do question 3 really quick then for everybody. If there are not any other questions that anybody has in the chat before I erase this, we'll move on to question 3, which was, okay, great. You said that you had that many moles. Well, how many molecules is that? So we need to use Avogadro's number and just now do another proportion to convert from moles to molecules. So that's what we're going to do next. I really hope all the emails that I keep getting are not like showing on the stream because I'm getting 1,000 emails right now. I just turned on Do Not Disturb, so that should solve that problem. All right, so anyway, let's go back to the question number 3, which is the one that people struggled on the most. People did really well with 1 and 2, but 3 is where kind of trip people up. And the reason that I didn't accept any quizzes that didn't get number 3 right is because I can't use these quizzes to lower your grade anyway. So if you didn't get it right, what would be the point? Maybe that was bad logic of mine and I wasn't feeling great about it, but I don't know. Madison, hi, glad you're here. So we have 1.5 moles of sulfur hexafluoride, and we now need to figure out how many molecules that is, which means we need to use Avogadro's number. So we're going to go back to the big screen view, and we say that 1.5 moles is equal to how many molecules? We are searching for the answer there. We need our other part of our proportion to try and figure out that answer to that question. So the other part of our proportion is the same on every single problem that we do. It's Avogadro's number. And that is that in 1 mole of material, okay, what you have to be really careful of is that your units match up on the left-hand side of the equal side and on the right-hand side of the equal side. So I've got moles on the left, and I'm going to have molecules on the right. But this is just Avogadro's, probably going to misspell it, Avogadro's number. That's going to be the second part of our proportion that we'll use that every single time. So that is equal to, this is just a statement of fact, 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 molecules. And now that we have our proportions set up, we can go through and solve it for x by cross multiplying, just like we've done with, I don't know, all the other proportions that we've done. And in order to make that a little more clear, I'm going to erase a couple things. So before I do that, I'm going to give you guys a second to answer any questions about the setup of that, making sure that you understand why I put everything in the place that I put it. And if there's any questions about the setup, I can answer those before I just erase the units to make the math a little bit neater. The really important thing is that moles are on the left and molecules are on the right. It doesn't matter what's on the top or what's on the bottom. It makes no difference whatsoever. So that's really, it's just the question. We've got 1.5 moles that we knew from number 2. How many molecules is that? Anytime I'm asking about moles and molecules, I'm going to be using Avogadro's number to help me answer that question. So since nobody has asked any questions in the chat, I'm going to just erase the units so that we can just focus on the math right now. So that was our proportion that we had set up. 1.5 over 1 is equal to x divided by 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So cross multiply. I'm going to go down and across because I feel like it. I've got 1 times x, that's very easy. And then I've got 1.5 multiplied by this scientific notation number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd power. So in order for me to solve that, I simplify and I just do algebra. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you have scientific notation there. As long as you put it into your calculator the way that we've practiced, it's all going to work out correctly. So 1 times x is just x. Great. We need to put in our calculator 1.5 multiplied by that number. All right, Luis, thank you for chiming in. And Luis, if I can address any questions that you have, let me do that as soon as I finish this math. Please, Luis, ask any questions that you do have, and I will try and help you through them. So thanks for chiming in. So on the right-hand side, we've got to multiply 1.5 times, and then we've got our scientific notation. So 6.02, I'm going to use the special E function key for scientific notation, 23. So I've got, I get that, so there's no glare. It's easier said than done. There's lots of glare in this basement right now. Come on now. Come on, Lee. That's acceptable. 1.5 times 6.02, use the special E key for scientific notation, 23. So 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, and we get 9.03 times 10 to the 23rd. But again, I always ask you guys, please round to 1 decimal place. So if you round that to 1 decimal place, then all you have is 9.0 times 10 to the 23rd. And that is the number of molecules in your sample of sulfur hexafluoride. You had 225 grams of it or something like that, which we figured out was 1.5 moles, and that comes out to be 9 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. All right, so how can I address your questions? So Luis, you know, going through this kind of quiz, there's basically 3 steps, and that's the 3 questions that I put on there. Step 1 was to figure out the molecular weight of sulfur hexafluoride using the periodic table. Step 2 was to figure out how many moles you have of it, and then step 3 was to convert from moles to molecules using Avogadro's number. So 3 steps and 3 questions on the quiz. Hey, Anai, thank you for being here. I haven't seen you this week, so I'm so glad you tuned in, man. Thank you. That's awesome. So anyway, 3 steps, 3 questions on the quiz. Luis, what step do you want to talk about? It can be 1, 2, or 3. I don't care. I've got all kinds of time right now. So what step would you like to go through? I'm happy to talk about whatever you need to. And See who else is in the chat. I think I've said hello to everybody who's here. So thanks for being here. I'm going to wait and give Luis and anybody else who has any questions, I'm going to give you guys a chance to think about those and ask them. And while I wait, I'm going to do jumping jacks. I'm going to, no, I should bring my guitar down here so I could play you a song while I wait. That would be like a good interlude music, wouldn't it? Um, oh well. We'll bring that in after spring break. I gotta do something to up the quality of the stream to keep people interested after spring break. Although here's while I'm waiting for questions, here's what I think, honestly, guys. I don't know what the state is going to do as far as these Act of God days go. They end on March 31st, and the state might say after that, okay, we're going to do real teaching now. I mean, not that what I'm doing right now hasn't been real teaching, but we're going to actually be able to give real grades now. Um, so when I kind of put on the top of the quiz, you know, you guys will be expected to know this material in order to pass the class. I wasn't trying to be, a hard ass about that, but here's the thing. Everyone who's on the stream right now, you have no idea how much I appreciate you guys being here. But there's lots of people who are not tuning in, and I have no idea if you guys are learning the material or not. And so it's really, really important that we have some standards for ourselves. And it's hard when the state has said that these days are basically, whatever days. But I think that's going to change after spring break. What I'm trying to say is, I think that there's going to be a renewed sense of purpose after spring break, I hope. So, Coach Lynch, to answer your question, I did record the other videos. I didn't put them on YouTube because are they've got students in them, and I thought that would be kind of wrong of me to put those on YouTube, like publicly and all that. But they are on Google Classroom. So in all of our Google Classrooms, there's a recording of the one from Wednesday. So the one from Wednesday, where I actually covered this material on Avogadro's number and converting to molecules, that was done on Wednesday, and that's posted in our Google Classroom. And then all of the other ones that we've done are on YouTube. Um, I don't know. Let me see. We go here, and let me go here. All the other ones that we have done, they are on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So you guys can go there and see them all. For people who didn't tune in right away off the bat, those are all there. So yeah, they're all recorded, and I hope people will, I don't know, take advantage of that at one point. So do I know if we're going back to school this year? That is a really hard question to answer. Um, right now, I'd say it's like a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance of whether we're going back to school this year or not. I honestly, I don't know. Um, it's possible we won't. We kind of have to be prepared for that reality, honestly. But I don't know. I don't know. Try not to think about it too much, to be honest with you, because I find that if I get too up in my own head about this stuff, it really stresses me out, and I have a really hard time dealing with that. And I'm a very kind of optimistic person by nature, so it's best for me to not dwell um, on things in the future that I can't control. And I have no idea whether or not we're going to go back to school this year or not. But I also know that there's nothing I can do at this moment to change that outcome. So really what I can only focus on is what is in front of me here and right now. And that's really, Madison, the mentality that I have to take for myself, because if I try and get too hypothetical about what might happen in a month and a half. But yeah, you guys, graduation, you will graduate from high school. You will get a diploma. You will go on to the next step of your life. I don't know what that graduation is going to look like, um, but you will graduate. That's that's definitely happening. So that's like one thing I can say for sure without having any doubt in my mind is that yes, like seniors will graduate. What that graduation ceremony will look like, I don't know. But Luis, you had asked cross multiplying. So I'm not sure whether that's the setup of the cross multiplication, Luis, or that's the actual like doing of the cross multiplication. So I'm just going to cover both, but you can maybe, I don't know, you can maybe give me some more information. Uh, are you struggling with the setup or are you struggling with the execution of the math? There is no return date as of right now, Madison. So the governor, the governor, the governor, I think the governor set it for April 8th, or that would have to be, no, April 7th or something like that, I believe. But it's not it's not official. I wouldn't bet on it if I were a betting person. All right, Luis, I got you. The setup is what you are struggling with. So let's just talk about the setup then. I basically have, when I set these problems up, when I'm going to do a proportion, I need two pieces of information to work with. So I'm using two different pieces of information that have the same units. And I'm going to set those equal to each other so that I can solve for one thing that's unknown. So my two, for example, pieces of information in a question like question number 2, when I want to know how many moles that I have. So the first piece of information that I have is the molecular weight. So I've got the molecular weight. That's my first piece of information. And then my second piece of information is the question, like the question statement. So our first piece of information that we figured out for sulfur hexafluoride was that sulfur hexafluoride is 146.1 grams per mole. 146.1 grams per mole. And the question statement that I was being asked about in question number 2 was how many moles if you have 225 grams? So how many moles in 225 grams? So we've got two statements here that have matching units. And I know it might not seem like their units actually match, but their units match. You've got grams and moles and moles. So you have matching units, two pieces of information, and one thing that's not known. And the one thing that's not known is the how many moles. How many becomes the algebraic letter x, as in I want to figure out that number. So I'm going to write these two statements out as fractions. And I'm going to say, okay, in 146.1 grams, I've got 1 mole of my sulfur hexafluoride. That's my first piece of information, the molecular weight. The molecular weight. And my second piece of information, the question statement says, okay, 225 grams is equal to how many moles? Again, of sulfur hexafluoride. I usually don't write that part because of laziness, but that's what the question's asking. So, really important, Luis, is that my units are on the same side of the equal sign. So I got grams and grams on the left over here, and I've got moles and moles over there on the right. And then these are my fractions. You know, if I make these two things that I've written into fractions and put one big equal sign in between them instead, now there's my cross multiplication. And I go through and solve the problem. So Luis, did that help? You can tell me if that helped. I think okay is like a good thing. I'm not sure. Yeah, Madison, don't worry about things like that. Just do the best you can every day. You're going to have some good days and you're going to have some bad days, right? Do the best you can every day. That's all we can ask. Last week, I had some bad days. That's why I canceled a couple streams last week. Do the best you can every day. We are going to take care of you guys and we are going to get everybody through this. So it's it's gonna be okay. As far as test retakes and things like that and all those hypothetical situations, I don't really want to give you an answer right now because like I said earlier, I don't have all the answers right now, but we're going to figure it out. That's the promise that I can make to you is that we are going to figure it out. And for example, like you're not in danger of failing the class, but maybe you're just hoping to like improve your grade because the test retakes in this class can bring your grade up by a lot. And I know you care about your work and you probably want to improve your grade. We're going to have a solution for that for you. Like we are going to figure all those details out. Okay. So don't worry about that right now. Take it one day at a time and do the best you can every day. That is really the best advice that I can give at this time. So, um, Luis, I'm glad that helped. You're so welcome. Um, these are really important notes to be writing down, by the way. Like this video is going to be on YouTube so that you can review it. And all the other videos are on YouTube so that you can review them, like I showed you guys. But it's really important to also be writing some notes down. So if you haven't been, go back and just write some notes down. Listen to this again. And that's really it. I have nothing else to say. Um, I think we threw a little bit of questions about life in there and answered some of those questions. We did some chemistry, so I'm pretty happy with what we were able to accomplish. I gotta again say thank you to everyone who's here. And before we go, is there anything else that I can answer? And if not, then we're gonna say goodbye. Um, please, over spring break, take a minute and try and focus on your mental and physical health. Um, stay serious about social distancing because people who are not taking social distancing seriously just slow this whole process down for everybody. So please be serious about that and take your, social distancing seriously because that is going to make this end faster. Every person out there who's not taking it seriously is just going to prolong this longer and longer. So if we take it seriously all together, then it'll be over sooner, and that's a good thing. Um, and your mental and physical health are so important right now. This is exhausting. It's crazy how, like, we say we're not, we can sleep in later, we're not getting up and going to work or to school or anything like that. And yet, for some reason, I'm like more tired than I ever have been. I'm just like tired all the time because we're living in this state of constant stress. And that's really hard on your body. And it's really important to get fresh air, to get outside, to get some sunlight. I'm sure we're all like super vitamin D deficient right now. Go out and get some sun and breathe some fresh air and try not to worry too much about next week or next month. Take it one day at a time. It's the best advice I can give you that you got to take care of yourselves and take care of each other and do those things and it's going to be okay. Yeah, get outside as much as possible. Those are like I cannot possibly tell you how important that is. So do it. And I will see you guys soon. And yeah, I got nothing else. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. I'll stick around in the comments for another minute to answer questions if you guys have them. But other than that, I am going to say goodbye for now. And so I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day. Really, really enjoy your spring break, and I'll talk to you guys.